How's it going, guys? Arrow here again, and I wanted to show you this time around how I play an engineer, and I'm going to show you that the build I've made for an engineer. I'm going to run it down just real quick, how it works, and what I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. I've had a lot of questions about this in game, and I've told them I made a video for them. So uh, the first thing is first. Let's just go over weapon sets. Obviously, here I'm using dual wield pistol. Um, I'm running a condition build, so obviously dual wield pistol is a very, very good condition weapon set. It's got access to every damaging condition in the game. It's got bleed on the auto attack, it's got poison on the 2, and blowtorch is obviously a burn. For utilities, I'm using healing turret, and the reason I'm doing this is because if you drop it and pick it up immediately, I hope you saw that, it actually has a 15-second cooldown, and if you measure the heals per second versus your other options on heals, this is a way better option. On top of that, I'll drop it here for you again really fast, so you can see it's got an overcharge on it, and you click it, and it does an AoE2 Condi removal for you and nearby allies. So then I'm using flamethrower, and flamethrower is an excellent weapon for knockbacks. So I'll show you this, and it's got a pull-in on the 5, and it also has a burn field. I do not use the flame jet or the flame blast at all for many reasons, and one of which being that the NGs have terrible power scaling. So yeah, avoid those skills. It would be my suggestion to you. So the rocket boots is my 8 number utility, and I'll just show you what this does really quick. It breaks stun and it knocks you back pretty far, and conjunctions with the build I'm using, it has a lot of benefits. So this is good for getting away, breaking stuns, a warrior bull rushes you, and you can just hit rocket boots to break the stun and get away, so it's quite cool. And then finally, slick shoes. Now slick shoes is a really, really strong ability, and what it does is it leaves an oil slick behind your character, and anyone that runs over that oil slick will get knocked down for 3 seconds. So imagine doing that on a point and just running in circles. People are going to get knocked down. It's just simply amazing. It's also a really cool ability to use in very tight areas when you're running. So, and finally I'm using supply crate, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a 2-second stun, provides a lot of med packs, and a couple turrets. And yeah, so that's it. And then the corresponding utilities on my tool belt. Incendiary ammo goes along well with the burns, and so does rocket kick, so another burn, and on top of super speed. Now I'm going to show this to you very shortly once I'm done telling you my traits and my ruins and stuff. I'm just going to tell you what the objective of this build is, and the objective of this build is to always have a burn up on your target. That is your objective. Always cycle through your burns, get them up on your target. You have access to so many: incendiary ammo, rocket kick, blowtorch, backdraft, and your napalm. It is just so easy to keep burns up. So that's just basically the objective of the build, and you use all the other abilities at the appropriate situations, and you have yourself a very, very powerful Condi build. So I'll go over my my armor runes. I'm using Melandru. The reason I use Melandru's is because, well, it's overpowered. It reduces all condition durations on you by 45%, it reduces stun duration by 33%, and gives you 165 toughness. This is obviously a very tanky. It can turn a normally squishy character into a pretty tanky character, and I've done some testing, and it turns out that if the condition, say, lasts 1 second, and you reduce it by 45%, a damaging condition at least, the damaging condition will not work on you. So Guardian uses procs a 1 second burn, you've got Melandru's on, it will not tick for damage. Very interesting thing to keep in mind. For weapon sigils I'm using in my main hand, it's Pistol of Earth. This build is using high crit and high condi, so this is obviously a very good choice. And my offhand, because my utility slots do not have any ready on-the-go condi removals, I'm using Sigil, or the Sigil of Superior Purity, and what that is just a 60% chance to remove a condition on critical on a 10-second internal. In conjunction with Melandru, it more than makes up for the condition removal that you are missing. And then finally my amulet. I'm using a rabbit amulet, obviously to go along with the Condi and crit procs, and all that good stuff. Gives good armor. And I'm using a rabbit jewel in that as well. I'll move on to my traits. I'm using 10 in explosives, 30 in firearms, and 20 in alchemy, as well as 10 in tools. For the explosives major trait, I'm using exploit weakness. That is very good, especially against warriors and people who are low and trying to run away. It's going to proc a cripple whenever you attack them. Now it says it's on a 15-second cooldown, but I believe it's bugged right now, and anytime you hit someone under 25%, it applies the cripple. It's broken, and it's really strong. But even if it weren't broken, it would still be a very powerful trait, in my opinion. On top of that, we have evasive powder keg, and that's when you dodge roll in combat, it creates a bomb on the ground. Now, I'll explain why. You'll see why very quickly when you're playing this build and when I show you why it's so powerful. In firearms, I am using Infused Precision, which is a 50% chance to gain swiftness on criticals. I'm using Rifled Barrels, which improves rifle, pistol, and harpoon gun range, all that good stuff. The reason I'm using this is because it's bugged right now, and it actually, for some reason, changed my 1, 2, and 3 abilities on my pistol to a different version of the skills. They're actually stronger than the regular ones. Now, if this weren't bugged, I would be using, let me find it here for you real quick. Oh, man. Hair trigger, there we go. It would normally just reduce the cooldown on your pistols so that you could fire more static shots and all that stuff. And finally, in Tier 3, now this gets a little bit tricky. You know, Coated Bolts is a really good trait. It makes your pistol shots pierce and essentially do AoE. But say you're facing a comp that doesn't have, or you're playing a role in your 5's team that doesn't require you to have that AoE. You can always pick up the alternative of Knee Shot, which is, I'll find that again, which is it cripples targets whenever you immobilize them. So essentially, it turns your glue shot into a cripple, which lasts for about 5 or 6 seconds. You could also put Knee Shot and substitute it for Rifled Barrels or Hair Trigger as well, if you don't want the reduced cooldown on your pistols for some reason. But I would definitely recommend having the cooldown on your pistols. It's very, very strong. And then in Alchemy, I have Invigorating Speed, because this is whenever you gain swiftness, which we're gaining them on crits, remember, 50% chance on crit. You're also going to gain vigor, and obviously vigor just is going to make you do insane dodge rolls. Insane. You're going to have a dodge roll up every 5 seconds, assuming that no one's applying weakness to you. Hidden Flask is obviously very supplemental to this build. It'll proc a 75, or at 75% health, it'll proc an Elixir B, and I think that's on about a minute internal cooldown. And for those of you who don't know what Elixir B is, it gives a 10 stack of Fury, 10 second stack of Fury, 20 second 1 stack of Might, and Swiftness. So it'll, proc your Vigor as well. And then this minor trait is just too good. 3% chance to convert incoming conditions into boons, and it's passive. It's so good. I can't tell you how many times I've been fighting a Condi build, and I'm just turning all these conditions, especially against bleed builds. They'll use all of a sudden, Ranger's a great example. They use the Warhorn birds on me, and I'll just all of a sudden gain like random boons because they're applying bleeds to me. So very, very good. Then Protection Injection, also an amazing trait. I'm so glad that they added this. It's whenever, this is what engineers really, really needed, and it's whenever you're stunned, you are going to gain, or stunned, dazed, knockback, launched, float, or synced, or feared. You're going to gain 3 seconds of protection. So imagine that against a warrior that just bull rushed you and hit frenzy. You're going to have protection up for that bull rush. Very, very good. And finally, I have 10 into tools. Not so much because of the minor. The minor's okay. I guess it stacks up with your perma vigor you have with the build. Adrenaline pump, which gives 10% of your endurance back when you use one of your tool belts here. But it's more so for the speedy gadgets, and that reduces the cooldown of your rocket boots and your slick shoes, which is obviously a very essential trait. So now that I'm done explaining that to you, I'm going to take you into PvP. So we'll see you guys there.